Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Adult Learning Lounge. It is me, Shannon, and we are back at the lounge. Okay. And before I even get into it, let me kind of set the mood right away. Okay, because it's one of those days. So I am sipping now. I will tell you what I'm sipping on. You can let me know what you're sipping on. Just drop me a line in the comment. Let me know what you're sipping on. Right. Um, I am sipping on a vodka and cranberry. And in particular, I'm sipping on a Kettle One and cranberry. When I order a vodka and cranberry, I will say Kettle One and cranberry. I've tried many different vodkas, and for whatever reason, Kettle One just always agrees with my palate. It's smooth to me, doesn't give me any issues, right? So I like it. It's tasty. So Kettle One and cranberry is what I'm sipping on. And what we are all listening to here at the lounge is At the Concert. At the Concert is a song by Michael Henderson with a very amazing guest appearance by Roberta Flack. And and for those who are well versed in jazz, right? I do like jazz. I'm not like a jazz aficionado, but at the end of At the Concert, there is like a mini solo, like a little bit of a solo by who I believe is actually Miles Davis, right? For those of you who are into music, who probably know and study at the feet of Miles Davis, take a listen. I'll link to the video, or I will include a link. My links are not live right now, but I'll include a link to the video, and you can take a listen. Just let me know, like, yeah, it's definitely Miles Davis. The reason why I say I believe it's Miles Davis, and I'm strongly suspect that it is because Michael Henderson spent, his formative years as a professional musician uh, in Miles Davis's band, right? He was like his bass player and a few other things. If you don't know Michael Henderson, he was an amazing artist from really was like at his peak in the 70s and like early 80s. But definitely check it out. It's a great song. Like I said, who can go wrong with Michael Henderson and Roberta Flack? And potentially a little bit of Miles Davis all on the same track. All right. So that's the mood, right? I'm in, right? Um, now that I've gotten that out of the way, hi, how are you? I hope you're doing okay. Um, I hope you're like I know that you're seeing this on Sunday, or rather, it's going to go live on Sunday. I'll post it on Sunday. So whenever you see it, but I'm hoping that you're having a good time right now. Things are okay for you right now. Dare I dream, right, that they could be going even better than that. But right. So if you do follow along with the schedule, I hope your last week was doable and good. I hope the upcoming week is doable and good. And if not, right, let us know, right? Remember, um, for those of you who may just be watching for the first time, I'm all about adults and helping them on their learning journeys or their educational journeys, whatever that may entail, right? So I'm also building a community, right? Community building happens here in YouTube Landia, right? It does. So it's like I'm building a community, and in that community, there will be room, there will be space for us to just have some shitty ass days and talk about it, okay? Um, I perform that function or service for many people. I've done it for years with students, right? Sounding board, sympathetic ear, whatever you want to call it. I know that it can be impolite, rude, self-absorbed at times to unload on somebody. But if you get permission, right, then it's just like, no, you can do it. Um, just be respectful, right? I've had some people unload that weren't respectful, and it's like, that's not how we do this, right? But here at the Adult Learner Lounge, yes, right? Because I feel like whatever we can do to help each other, right, and get through, like, let's just do it, okay? That's what adults do. Sometimes we do a lot of things that we may not want to do, or things that we do want to do, but we know that they can be challenging, whatever that may be. But the mentality that I have is like, let's just do it, right? You need some help? Let's talk about it. There'll be time for a lot of things later, right? Reflection, judgment, right? Shame, guilt. That's only if you have those things, right? But anyway, I digress. So I hope you're doing well. Thank you for stopping by the lounge. Okay, so today, one thing I want to do before we get into today's video also, well, we're already in it, but before I'm focusing on the topic at hand, I need to clarify something, okay? I'm looking at my notes like, okay, clarify something. So in my in my own individual personal justice league, right, in my own little circle of friends, right, circle of trust, um, or should I say Legion of Doom, because like sometimes we do fucked up shit. But anyway, my point is that in my tribe of people, who I can call my people and who call me their people, there are some who know that I'm doing this whole YouTube thing, and there's some that don't know. And not because it's a secret. It's just that if they are not really on YouTube like that, and it's like a waste of everybody's time for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm on YouTube now. It's like, okay, and it's like what? So I just right. But for those who are connoisseurs like me, um, and I value their opinion, I'm like, hey, do me a favor. I'm posting videos now. I'm taking this slow. Take a look at the videos that I have up. Just give me your feedback. Now, let me say something about feedback, okay? And we'll talk about this in a future video. When it comes to learning, like the way humans, the way we all learn, right? No matter what our backgrounds, whatever, how we all learn as humans, has been kind of like boiled down to like a loop, right? It's the learning loop. Look it up. You can find it. It's a loop. And one of the last, uh, stop on that loop, right? That basically closes the loop for us is feedback, right? If you do something, you get some instructions, you do it, and then you have it evaluated or assessed, and then you get that feedback. The feedback is what lets you know, yes, you did this correctly, or no, you didn't, or yes, you did this correctly. However, here are some things you may want to consider improving on the next time. And when you have quality feedback, that's it. So you know that if you ever did that thing that you learned again, you would know what to avoid. You would know what to gravitate towards and what to do, right? Or more of or less of whatever, right? So it's a thing. Feedback is very, very important and very powerful. So I ask for feedback because, A, I can take it, like be critical, right? And B, I want to get this shit right, right? I don't want to keep doing I don't waste my time, your time, money, any of that shit, doing the same thing wrong over and over again. I have no desire to do that. So I asked the people who I thought would be able to, okay, and weigh in, right? And so my friend was just like, yeah, I watched, the couple of 2 videos I have out there. And she's like, I think it's good, but there's something in the second video that you did that I think you might want to address. So here's what happened. And this is a clarification, not a correction, right? Because I meant what I said. I just need to clarify in the context by which I said it, because context is everything, right? So in the beginning, when I was describing myself, to you, I said that I was an out and proud Gen Xer, right? And my friend's concern was, in the age that we live in, right, that there are those who may consider me to be maybe gay or lesbian, right, or just a member of the LGBTQ community. She said, so you may want to clarify, explain or provide context for what you meant by out and proud Gen Xer. And I'm like, okay, that's fair, right? Now, there are those out there who have some very strong opinions, either for or against what's happening now, like these developments and changes in like sexual identity and gender identity and things like that. They may have problems with the LGBTQ community as a whole. I'm not one of those people. I'm not, right? I am very much like a to each his own type of person. I really am, right? And to be honest, like to be even more honest, I should say, because I'm all about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth here, right? So to be even more honest, right? I think it's actually kind of cool, right? Because to me, it's like from a learning aspect, right? The more that humans have the ability and the capacity to kind of like name, better identify things. I think for all of us, the better we are, right? Even if it does not necessarily pertain to you or it cannot be ascribed to you, right? So for those people who are exploring and experimenting and really doing like a lot of that mental and intellectual work of trying to determine what is gender, like what does this look like, and can there be others than this, and here's what I think, and here's how I feel, all of that. Years later, right? Much later, at the pace that we're going, yeah, people may look at that and think like, hasn't it always been that way? Like history may judge us correctly on that one to say, okay, because it serves a purpose to me. Like learning things could be adopted and appropriated for their unintended meanings, right? So this identification, right? This deep dive and trying to better describe things, right? I think that shit is awesome, right? I do. So right, so have at it, right? But for me and my clarification, no, I am married. I have a husband, right? I am heterosexual, right? Um, that's it, right? But I embrace everyone, right? Do I love everyone? No, I sure as hell don't, right? I don't. Do I like everyone? Even less than loving everyone, right? But I have the capacity. I have the capacity to love everybody. I do, but I don't, right? But am I okay with you being you, even if you may not have or even if you have a problem with me being me? Yes, I'm okay with you being you because I know I'm going to be me no matter what. So there's that. Okay, so clarification. So what did I mean by out and proud? Just what I also know out and proud to be, right? I'm very vocal. I'm outspoken. I'm very proud of the fact that I'm in my freaking 50s. Shit. Listen, okay? I know people also have some very like definite opinions, right? Like line in the sand, like I will fight you over age, right? And aging, right? Again, I don't, right? Like in some ways, I'm having a horrific time in my 50s because of health issues. And it's not because of like the past like year and a half has been really, really challenging for me health wise, right? But I'm still here, and I'm feeling better. Like I'm definitely on the mend, right? And I'm on the upswing here, which is great. But at the same time, it doesn't like necessarily like damper me enjoying my 50s, right? I feel overwhelmingly, I feel good about it, right? And I feel like it's the best is yet to come. Like, okay, this shit is good, and I see it getting better, right? So I'm good. I'm good with it. So yes, I'm very proud of my age. And I'm proud to be a Gen Xer. That was really the comment. I'm proud to be a Gen Xer too. I am. I know that Gen X is our generation. If you are a fellow Gen Xer, then you already know we get trash. We get trash from all sides, right? We're ungrateful as the children of the boomers, and we are out of touch, clueless, and destroying everything as the parents of whatever millennial, Gen Y, Gen Z, whoever comes after us, right? But for me, um, no, like I'm very proud to be a Gen Xer, right? I know it's like that Langston Hughes poem. Like life for us has not been ain't been no crystal stair. It hasn't, right? It was screwed up and fucked up when we came into to existence, and it just seems to be just like one like 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 a freaking dumpster fire of stress and challenges. And but somewhere in there, it's a lot of good shit that happened for us. A lot of good shit that we did and that we will continue to do. Right? This is me doing this. It's like I thought that something was wrong with me when I was younger, but only to realize that I wasn't ready for something like this. I had to wait to get here in my 50s. So yeah, so I'm really proud to be a Gen Xer. So the out and proud comment was just that. I will fly my Gen X flag high, high, because I'm like, yeah, I'm with it. All right, so having clarified and all of that, we are now about to jump into the topic of today's video, which is adult learning theory. All right, adult learning theory. So let me give you a little backstory first, okay? So in the field of education, right, there is a very um, prevalent theory, concept, idea. It's a theory, it's a concept, it's an idea uh, of like how we learn. Like so, what I said earlier, just a moment ago, about how humans learn. Like we learn, and the learning or the way that we learn is pretty much shared amongst us as a species. And there's like this loop, right? So there are some fundamental similarities in how humans learn and acquire knowledge. Okay, but okay, for years, decades, 19th century, so forth and so on to present. Um, what back then, I should say, the prevalent thought was that um, all of the learning that we pretty much we'll do when we're young, right? And that will hold us until we die, right? So that was where the focus was, right? On children, on their learning, their abilities, their development, right? So the study of like children and how they learn is called pedagogy, right? That's a term that you may have heard. Some of you may be very familiar with it. So pedagogy, right? And I'm generalizing here, so just come at me if you want to. But yes, I'm generalizing, just so you know. Okay. But anyway, so that's basically what the focus was for decades, right? Um, and then in that, you may have had like an outlier, somebody who maybe piped up and was like, well, is that like the learning that we do in childhood? Does that comprise like the all of our learning? Like there's nothing else, right? Um, and then maybe those few people on the outline or the outliers, right? Um, that argument kind of started to grow, right? So then you have people who focused and dedicated their research to adults to say, okay, well let's take a look at adults and see what's happening there, right? And it was happening, like I said, it was growing slowly, incrementally, right? But then things kind of came to a head, right, in the 1960s, all right? So in 1968, there was a very well-known and respected academic researcher, right, educator named Matthew Knowles. And what he offered and proffered basically in 1968 was the adult learning theory, right? And what he basically stated was that, yes, even though, there are fundamental similarities within the human species of how we learn things, that there are also some fundamental differences within the groups, right? That children, right, or pedagogical learning does not do an accurate job of describing or capturing adult learning, right? There's a difference, okay? And what he ultimately described with the adults is what became known as the adult learning theory or andragogy, right? So nowadays, if you hear the term pedagogy, then that's dealing with children. Like ped is one of those like Latin root words that kind of gives it away, right? Because ped can mean like feet, right? Movement, us, people. Um, Ped can also imply or indicate that it's something related to children or young people, right? So anyway, pedagogy is now the study of learning how children learn. But currently, andragogy describes how adults learn, right? And this being a theory, right? I'm not going to go into details about how theories come into existence. But there's a process, right? No one can just get up and says, "Well, this is my theory." They've tried, but a theory needs to be vetted, right? Vetted. And a good theory, ones that have been basically adapted is being accurate and true, like Darwin's theory of evolution. That theory's been around for over 100 years, and many, many, many scientists, academics, and researchers have taken a crack at Darwin's theory of evolution, and it holds true. So it's kind of safe after 100 plus years to say, and many attempts to say, well, no one has been able to disprove the theory. Everything kind of checks out. So overwhelmingly, it's been proven it's true. So the same thing is happening with Knowles' adult learning theory, right? And that's what's supposed to happen. They're not haters. They're kind of like doing the job within the community, the research community, the scientific community, the academic community, whoever's doing the actual experimenting, whoever's doing the research, right? That is what they're required to do, right? When you put forth a theory, it needs to be vetted, right? Evaluated, assessed, analyzed, right? Somebody out there is going to do it, and they should, right? Because if it still checks out, then that only strengthens, your theory, right? It helps to better prove, like, okay, it's been holding up. So overwhelmingly, Knowles' theory has been holding up, right? It does have its detractors, like all theories can have detractors. There are detractors for Darwin's theory of evolution, right? But okay. But again, overwhelmingly the research and everything, the data and everything holds that Knowles was onto something, and this is probably it. So much so that the at this point in our within The tent of education, like I told you before, there's many other smaller tents, right? And one of those tents is adult education, right? Adult education can be comprised of a few different things. At the crux of it, though, at the core of it, it's adult basic education, or ABE. So those adults who are looking to earn a GED or a high school diploma. Um, those adults who may um, need like basic, foundational learning and education to get them, up to par with, most other adults. It can also encompass ESL, or English as a second language, right? And there are some other things that go into the mix. Um, Adult education can also entail CTE and post-secondary academic, right? It can also entail aspects of that too. If you have programs that are designed specifically for adults, then in turn, yes, adult learning theory can inform, or should at this point, right? But it is very much has been adopted wholesale by education, and particularly by adult education in particular, right? Okay, so um, what is adult learning theory? Is what I'm getting at, right? So adult learning theory is basically comprised of a number of assumptions, six assumptions that Knowles made about adults and how they learn, right? Now, let me expand a little bit on the assumptions angle, right? Um, we all have been taught over the years to not assume, right? When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, right? So let's not assume, right? Let's not make assumptions. But there are certain aspects within our, the human condition and our experience as human beings, where assumptions serve a very valuable purpose, right? And when it comes to research, science, and things like that, um, yes, assumptions are helpful, right? Even in our everyday lives. So, like, okay, work with me here. Just follow me, right? So, research can be different types: academic, scientific, consumer, right? Anytime we have to go and find out about something, that's research, basically, right? And again, I am very much generalizing here. I'm just kind of like trivializing just down to like simple points, right? Okay. So, think about you as a consumer. Think about when you have to make a purchase, right? Are you the type of person that will have to go and do your research, pull up like Google Shopping, get the whole aggregate to see what all the prices are, go check it out here, do a little bit of window shopping and whatever, right? If that describes you, right? Maybe some of you are not taking it to an extreme, but maybe some of you that's like par for the course when you make any purchase. Maybe some of you do a little bit of that, right? Or, like I said, or your process is very involved and detailed like that. Then that's you basically doing consumer research, right? But somewhere in there, right, whether you are aware of it or not, we often as humans, we make assumptions, right? So, we make these assumptions whether we are aware of it or not. But the assumption that we make helps us. It helps, with our research, it helps us make better decisions. So here's how that looks. So let's say that you are shopping for, let's say that you are looking for a major purchase, right? So let's say you're shopping for appliances, right? um, let's say that you want to get, you're redoing the laundry room in your house, and you want new washer, new dryer, you want to update your cabinets, and you probably are going to get a new laundry sink. Okay. Now, when you go to look for a new washer and dryer, let's say you had your washer and dryer for like 15 years. It's been a while, right? A lot has changed, right? When it came to has come to appliances over the years in 15 years, right? A lot of them are smart appliances now. They are infused with technology, right? The wash and dry that you had for 15 years was before that, so it's just like a good one, but it's pretty basic compared to today's standards. So let's say you had a Whirlpool, right? Okay. Now, when it's time for you to look for a new washer and dryer, you're not even thinking about the other brands, right? The Whirlpool washer and dryer that you got did you well for 15 years. You're just going to stick with the Whirlpool because your assumption right? Whether you know this or you assume it or not, is that it was a good product 15 years ago. It's going to be a great product even today. That's it, right? So you start with this. This is where you start your research, because when you go look to see about the new brands, the new models, and the new price points, you're only looking at Whirlpool because you've assumed that in the 15 years, the Whirlpool brand, Whirlpool appliances are still first rate, top notch. You've made an assumption. Then you get out there on the interwebs and find out what? You are absolutely correct. Whirlpool is still one of the top brands when it comes to appliances, particularly washers and dryers. So now you feel comfortable, right? You saved yourself time and any frustrations, right? You don't have to go and do any of this. So now you know it's a Whirlpool and that's it. So by assuming such, right, it helped inform your research. And there you go, right? So um, on a more involved scale, right, on a more scientific or experimental or research based or whatever scale, right, assumptions have much value, right? And in effect, and I've said this before, and I've gotten like some hard looks from colleagues, right, especially the ones who are scientists and things like that. Um, a hypothesis is in like kind of like an assumption, right? You don't know until you do the experiment. You don't know until you find out whether your hypothesis is correct, but you kind of are making an assumption here, right? You believe what you believe. You believe it to be true, correct, accurate. Then you go out and you do some research and it either proves or disproves what you assume, right? So assumptions have their place, all right? Now, we're going to get into Knowles' 6 assumptions, right? Which basically form the adult learning theory. Number 1, self-concept. Adult learners have a self-concept. This means that they are autonomous, independent, and self-directed. Yes. Now, what I'm going to do is I go through each one of the 6 assumptions, right? I will talk about it from a personal perspective of me being an adult learner. I will talk about it from a personal perspective of my professional observations about these 6 assumptions and what I've seen in students and things like that over the years. Okay, um, from what I just for myself as an adult student, a former adult learner, yeah, right. Um, the only way when I understood that the roadblock that I kept having, why I was not successful as a why I was not successful as a traditional college student right out of high school into college that first go around was because I was craving independence. I was craving autonomy. I was craving self-direction, and even and me being introverted, right? It was why I struggled some in high school. It's definitely why I struggled because I wanted to learn, but I didn't want to learn in that classroom. I wanted to learn, but I didn't want to learn on someone else's pace or someone. I wanted to be on my pace in my time, independently. I didn't want to have to. Can I do it someplace else? Right. That was my problem. And yes, as far as what I've seen, right, and the autonomy and everything manifests itself in so many different ways, right. Um, my students have overwhelmingly demonstrated that to me, right. There's some other aspects about adult learners, and this has nothing to do with adult learning theory, but just within education. As a group of students, right? So anybody that's doing any type of post-secondary or even CTE, career and technical education, um, what they know about us as adults, right, who are learning in those environments, is that we are what they refer to as high touch, low tech, right? High touch, low tech. I'm trying to see what my hands are lined up on the camera. We're high touch in the sense that as opposed to younger students, we require more engagement. Why? Not just hand holding. Sometimes it is hand holding, but really it's more engagement because as adults we have questions. We have to know. We have to know. Like, what is this for again? Like, why am I doing this? What do you need me to do? Right? Um, if we're not clear, we need clarity. Right? And when they say that we're low tech, it kind of like it means self-explanatory as a group, right? As a group, right? No, right? Our tech skills can be fair to middling at best, right? So it's not like we are ignorant of technology, but we're not as uh, what's the word I'm looking for? We're not as skilled, right, as maybe someone younger. And I think that really has to do with involvement or engagement. A lot of that stuff, we don't do it, right? It's like I don't have time for that. It doesn't interest us. Because for those of us who do, we do a great job. But yeah, so we're high touch, low tech, right? But the cool thing about that being high touch is that once, and this has been my observation and both my personal experience, once we get our questions answered, once we know what the hell is going on, then we're doing it, right? It's done. And that's something that I don't really see overwhelmingly in traditional younger students, right? Right? We know how to meet deadlines. We know how to get it done. We know how to, do whatever is necessary. So yes, right. We need to know, right? But once we know, just let move out of the way and let us do it, right? So self concept, autonomous, independent, and self directed. All right. Number two, learning from experience, right? I'll read directly from the theory here. Experience as a rich resource of learning. That's what they mean. Adults learn from their previous experiences. Thus, it is a good repository for learning. Yes, right? We know of terms that are in quotes and phrases that have been around for years, right? Experience is the best teacher, and so forth and so on, right? So, in the education landscape when it comes to learning from experience. There is a bit of educational jargon that we use to refer to learning from experience, and it's called experiential learning, right? So that term is experiential learning, right? Meaning that we, right, adults, have learned, typically, we've learned at a post secondary level. We've learned at in this case, post-secondary meaning any type of learning after high school, right? Because high school is secondary. Post-secondary could be college, university. It could be career and technical institutions, right? All of that is post-secondary. So we have learning that we've acquired through our experiences at that level. That's what it basically boils down to, right? That's experiential learning. So in this case, not as very involved and structured, but still the concept by which it was built upon. So yes, right? We as adults, we've done it. We've been there and we've done that, right? When I went to school as as an undergrad, right, and even working on my bachelor's degree, through that whole experience, some programs out there trade on your learning through experience, right? They do. They welcome it because they know that instead of having to go back and kind of build you up with the fundamentals, it's like, no, you already know that. Let's just kind of get you right here where you are and move you forward. Often that's how a program could be accelerated, right? Based on the past learning that you can demonstrate or you've experienced. So for me, especially like I said, in all my programs, the learning that I had acquired through and a college, a university, or a technical institution, any of that, is not just the only formal learning environment, right? Formal learning environments exist everywhere. If you worked in your job at a company or for the government or whatever, that's a formal learning environment too, right? It is, right? There are many, right? Wherever the learning is going to take place and it's structured can comprise a formal learning environment. So that learning that we are amassing and acquiring through experience, it could be through work experience. It could be through volunteering, right? Maybe you are an active member in your church. It could be through a religious institution. It does not matter. What matters is that you learned, right? And it helps us as adults. Now, it doesn't mean that traditional age students or children even don't have experiences. Of course they do. But what we are stating here with this particular assumption about learning from experience is that how many children and teenagers, right, and even some young adults have had the type of experiences that would warrant or allow learning at that post-secondary level, right? Often not a lot, right? You could be the outlier, right? If the 18-year-old went right into the military, right, did 4 years and then came back, and now the 18-year-old is what, mid 20s now, 24, 25, whatever. Yes, that young adult, is on the cusp of being an adult learner, right? But definitely have had experiences where it's just like, okay, kid, come on through, right? And then there are others, right? Just because they are younger or traditional age does not mean that they don't possess the ability for that type of learning. But overwhelmingly as adults, right? That's what we do, right? We do. So learning through experience or learning from experience. Okay, so I'm on to the third assumption, which is readiness to learn. Okay. Adults tend to gravitate towards learning matters that matter to them. Their readiness to learn things is highly correlated with their relative uses. Yes. All right. When I was going through my undergrad and grad program, I chose programs that I felt would fall in complete alignment with my personal and professional goals as a 30 something, right? Moving towards midlife, right? And I was not open to anything else, right? And then when I was in those programs, I made my choices, and again, after we get through, I have a couple of other videos I want to make. I'm going to do some reasons, right? Reasons why adults return to school, and I'm going to do two videos. One is going to be why adults return to college and university. The other will be why adults return or embark on career and technical. Right, so those will be the next two videos, and then after that, I am going to jump in body first, right, with my story. Right, I will share it with you, but we'll talk about that later, okay, or in an upcoming video. All right, so yeah, so our readiness to learn. So making those choices, like I said, for me with the program, it was like a no-brainer. And then when I got into the program, everything like the classes that I took, the even my elective choices, like every class that I chose, that I was able to choose, and in every class that I was required to take, right? Yeah, like everything was lining up. It was giving me information and imparting knowledge to me that I knew could be applicable to these goals that I had set for myself. Same thing when I went to graduate school for my master's degree, and definitely when I did my doctorate degree as well. Right, so my learning definitely was in alignment to the point, and that everything kind of helped me in this career that I have in higher ed. Right, and I was cock diesel. You couldn't tell me shit. I'm like, oh, let's do this, right? Even when it was challenging, even when my life was challenging, right? But I was ready to go. And with my students, same deal, right? Over the years, as I've worked with students in the classroom, I've worked with students, supporting them, like I said, through coaching and advising and things like that. Same deal, right? Like when they have the argument used to always go something like this, right? um, they would come to me and say, I'm in this class and I don't like this class. The material, the content, whatever, is boring. It's difficult. I'm not really following. Do I need this class? Do I need it? So I'm looking at them like, yeah, you need the class. Like, well, what's going on, right? So we would have to figure out other ways, right? Because that was like a legitimate question. Like, why am I here? Do I need this? Right? Readiness to learn, right? This class does not matter to me. Like, what is this all? Why the hell do I need to know about whatever, right? And I had to explain, like, here's why. Here's why. Now, if they came to me to complain about like an elective course, right, one that they chose, then I'm instantly putting it right back on them, rather than say, well, you chose that course. I mean, did you know what was it about before you chose it? Well, no, because I heard from a classmate of mine that it was an easy course or it was a this, and I'm like, okay, well, and if it's time, you can always drop a class, and if it's time, which is a very narrow window in most schools, you could drop a class and pick up another class, right, before the registration period ends. So if they had time, I would say, listen, here's what I see open. Here's what you could take, this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, right? And if not, it's like, listen, you could withdraw from the class or you could just kind of like trudge through and hope for the best. Like, let me know what you want to do. Typically, when it came to adult learners, you all would just plow through and make it work, right? But every now and then, I would have a student drop a class or whatever. Because again, right, if it doesn't matter to us, then it impacts our readiness to learn. But when something is piquing our interest or is educating us and we are excited about it, we are ready to go. Children don't really have that option. They really don't, right? Like, this is what they have to take. It's a very prescribed, right, curriculum, right? It's a prescribed um, load of courses, right? So they take what they're required to take, right? High school, so forth. That's it, right? But for us as adults, it's like, no, no, right? So when something is important to us and it matters, it definitely impacts us. We're ready to go. Okay. All right. So now I'm on to number 4. Immediate applications. The orientation of adult learning is for immediate applications rather than future uses. The learning orientation of adults tends to slant towards being task oriented, life focused, and problem centric. We just talked about that slightly, right, with readiness to learn. Yes, right. Like I said, everything that I did as an adult learner was with those goals for the most part in mind. Task orientation, life focus, and problem centric, right? Um, and so, like I said, like we as adults, we're this is not necessarily something we're gonna hold on to, right? Uh, and then we'll bust it out later on, and right. Often how we learn, especially in these, like I said, post-secondary environments, is just like that, right? You're getting it now because you probably need it now, right? Or as it comes into you, it's also coming out, right? Because you're applying it in real time. What I used to always say about students, like one of the differences to me between traditional students, traditional post-secondary students, and adult post-secondary students, is that the young people are all full of the theory, right? They're in class, they're learning theoretically, right? This is theoretically what will happen. This is theoretically how it happens in the workforce or in the world, and so forth and so on, right? They have excellent examples because history provides us with all the examples that we need to answer the questions, right? And they have much by way of what's happening in the present as well, right? So they're learning and they're learning, right? They are all the theory. They're filled up with it, right? And then they are cut loose once they're done with school to go out to the world and say, "Go ahead, now apply it." But an adult learner, especially those who are coming back to either begin, for the first time or finish what they start. What happens if you already have been cut loose into the world? You didn't get the theory, not in a formal environment, but you surely got the theory on the job, working with your hands, right? Right. Being immersed in it. So it's almost like learning through immersion, right? So adults are all of the application of those theories that those traditional students typically learn in class, right? You've already had to do it. Your whole job and your whole field is nothing but this. It's like, oh yeah, I do that every day. That's what you see often with adults in the classroom. Like, why am I here? This is what I do every day, right? But let me be clear, okay? Those are you, right, with the immediate applications, right? So when we have to learn, and especially if you already know it, right, it doesn't mean that that's the entirety of it, right? Things change in the field. And so what I typically would see with adults in the classroom, adult learners, is that they would be in awe, like, wait a minute, so this is what's happening in my field, or this is what's happening in my area, or whatever. Yeah, like a lot has happened since then. Some of it they may have known about, but the entirety of it often they don't, right? New theories, new learning, new approaches, right? So going back to that readiness to learn and it mattering to them, once all these things kind of line up, it's like, okay, right? And so, yes, as adults, we are trying to get this because we need to probably be able to do something with it in the immediate, right? We are not, and to be clear, when adults are better versed on the theory, it kind of fills in gaps. That's what I've seen frequently. Like, oh, that's why it's that way, or that's why it does what it does. And it's like, yes, right? You never may have known the theory or known the formal theory. You may have never, been introduced to it, or it was never introduced to you in the course of your work or or whatever it is, or however it is you learn this, right? But you know it, and when you get the language and you can identify it, it's like, oh, okay. So it kind of like it just completes the learning for a lot of adults. So yes, we have immediate applications. Like we're not waiting on this, right? And if we're learning something new, right? often what I see with adult learners is that they're looking to kind of like leverage and reconcile. So here's what I already know. Here's a skill set that I already have. This is new knowledge for me, but I'm trying to see how to kind of fit this all in together. Once they figure that out, they're off, right? So, yes, immediate applications. Okay, now I'm on to number 5. Internally motivated. Adults are more motivated by internal personal factors rather than external coaxes and pressures. Okay? What does that mean? There is no parent for an adult learner. There's no parent weighing in on their throat, right? To say, you have to do this. Your future is going to be in jeopardy if you don't take this class. I have a friend of mine who just mentioned to me not that long ago that they were kind of pressuring, for lack of a better word, right, their child into a certain major, right? Because their child just started college this past year, right? This 24-25 academic year, right? Last fall, I should say. And that they just recently, was just like, I talked to my child. I told my child that I really just wanted them to find their own way and be happy. So I was like backing off of, you know, this particular major. They could choose whatever major they wanted. And I'm like, oh my God. Because I have been coaching, like, don't do it, right? When it comes to younger students, additional students, one of the best ways to make sure that they don't finish school is to pressure them, right? It has to be this. And it's like, right. But for adults, we don't have that issue, right? Our motivation is not external. There's no one pushing us. There's no one trying to um, persuade us, right, into doing this, right? We are very much internally motivated. Now, it doesn't mean that we are absolved or immune to external pressures. What it typically looks like, in my observations and opinions for adult learners, is that a situation, right, or let's say an entity, so to speak, right? Maybe the pressure is coming from the fact that, or the external motivation is coming from the fact that your job requires this degree, right? And if that's the case, then yeah, then that's a pressure, right? But typically, it's us, right? We're doing this because we can see the need for this. I've worked with countless students who understood the writing on the wall. They could see it, right? They had the gift. Yeah, things are good in my job right now, but I could just kind of see where we're headed in the next 5 years. I'm coming back to go ahead and get this credential and finish this, that, and the third, because when it happens, I want to be ready. Got it. For me, as a former adult learner, my motivations were all internal, right? I already went through the parental pressure when I was a young person, right? And that wasn't even what did me in. It was my own, like I said, um, issues, right? But when I went back, it was all for me, right? I wanted to assuage these feelings that I have had at the time of guilt, right, of shame. I wanted to embark on a different career path. At the time, I didn't know what that was, but I wanted to change my life, right? So that was my internal motivation, and no one could do anything about that. Nobody could uh, change that or impact that in any way, positive or negative. It's like, of course, the more people to say good luck, great, right? But I didn't need that. Everything that I needed to power through that phase of my educational journey, it all came from inside, right? It was all internally motivated. So yes, I've seen that, and it's definitely a thing. All right, and here's the sixth assumption for Knowles' adult learning theory is the need to know. And I just said this earlier, but this is the last one and the final one, the need to know. Adult learners have the need to know the value of what they are learning and know the whys behind the need to learn them. Why am I in this class? What is this supposed to do for me again? What is this degree program really about? How will this work out for me in the real world? Right? You all have to know. We have to know. Right? And I've seen that. Like I said, I've seen that trait in some young people over the years. But baby, okay, that is us all day. Don't the hell am I? Because as an adult, like I said, you all understand, right? You have the gift, right, of foresight. You can see the writing on the wall, and what you also understand is that, hey, wait a minute, again, right? Even though it might be education, this is something that you're paying for, right? With your time, with your resources, and with your money, which could also be a resource, right? But so as such, you have to explain to an adult learner. You have to be able to explain successfully, by the way, what is in it, not just for them, but like the value of this, the necessity of this, right? Why do I need communications? Because you need it, right? When I have to explain what the purpose of gen eds are, right? When I have to explain to an adult learner, well, I mean, I talk just fine. I know how to write a letter. What is the point? These are, and I'm basically generalizing here too, but these are like composites of conversations that I've had with students over the years, because I've had plenty of those. Okay, and I'm like, okay, yes, that's true, but and what I usually have to tell them is like, I promise you that if you're questioning this class, I'm sure it's something about it that you just don't like. Just make it through to the end. You probably will be able to walk away with at least one thing, right? One kernel of knowledge or a fact or a data point or something or a statistic that can help you, especially, in the future, right? Especially on your job, especially with your family, so forth and so on, right? And typically that's where I can usually get them, right? It wasn't a contest. Like, I wasn't trying to best anybody. But shit, I had to go there, like, and for me, right? So I'm in my 50s now. So let's imagine me like in my 40s talking to the student who might be in their late 50s, 60s, whatever, right? I'm not getting ready to disrespect my elders, but at the same time, I'm like, I am the person that has to tell you kind of like, like what to do, right? Take these classes. Here's why. So it's like this balance, right? This delicate dance that I'm doing where I'm just like, okay, so I have to respectfully disagree, right? I have to respectfully, gingerly push back, right? No, 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 sir, no, ma'am, no, whomever. You have no, this is no, this is you have to do this. So we need to know, right? We need to know not what is, like I said, it's not transactional, like what's in it for us. No, like, why? Tell me again why I need to do this. Like, why am I here? And then I think that it does the job and the trick of reorienting us, refocusing us, right? Allowing us to dig deeper for whatever's needed. Like I said, and I was the same way as an adult learner myself. Every now and then there'll be the class where I'm like, do I need this class? And it's like, yes, yes, you do. And I'm like, oh. So that means I had to like dig deep, right? And my bag of adult learner tricks to say, okay, this is hard, or man, this is boring me to freaking tears. What the flip am I supposed to be doing with this shit? And searching for like something that I can like focus on, like laser focus. Like, let me grab onto this because this will likely help me get through the class. And typically when I did that, typically every now and then it'd be a class where I was like, I just cannot do this anymore. But for the most part, it worked out great. Okay, so those are the 6 assumptions of the adult learning theory by Malcolm Knowles. And that's it. That's all it is in a nutshell. Like I said, when I've shared this with students over the past, it was kind of like an aha moment for them too, where it's like, okay. Because again, like I said about the theory, right? You know that you're doing these things, right? Sometimes we have some understanding of why, but when I give you the theory, right, and you now can have a more complete picture, it's like, oh, that's why, and it's like, yep, that's why, right? So you're again you've been applying this. All of this that I've described, it's not anything to me so radical, but it is how we function, how we learn, right, as an adult, right? So that's to me, it was important that we started there, right? Because I want you to understand that I'm not just here saying, "Hey, you are an adult and you are an adult learner, and that's different." No. If we held to the beliefs that we had back in the 19th century, that all learning basically began in our childhood, we would be so fucked right now. So fucked, right? Because a lot of what we also learn takes place in the present, right? Whatever age we are. So again, as adult learners, to know that something might be a little bit different than when I was a young person learning. Yes, it's so helpful, right? It really is. So there you have it. Anyway, thank you as always for joining me. Thank you for sticking through to the end if you made it this far. Uh, Reach out to me. Like I said, if you need any clarification yourself, if you have comments, questions, whatever, leave me a comment on the video also. I am going to continue for now. If you are feeling me and feeling this, like the video, consider subscribing to the channel. I would appreciate it. That's it. Join our community, right? Because I'm definitely going to do this, right? And I would love to do it with you. And I think that's it. Next video, like I said, I'm going to tackle some reasons. I'm going to look at the 7 reasons why adults even return to school. There'll be a few more other than the 7, but I'll talk all about that in the next video. Until then, take care. Have a great rest of your week. All right. And never forget that we never, ever stop learning. All right. You take care. Bye.